Hi guys, welcome back to EuroLeague and welcome to a new segment on my channel, which is Football Frenzy. We'll be going through Europe's key fixtures every weekend and we'll be just breaking down and giving and analyzing what went down across the top five leagues and the key matchups, key games in of the week. So starting off in the Premier League, we started off on 12:30 kickoff on Saturday was Liverpool versus Everton Merseyside derby at Anfield, and Liverpool ran winners 2-1 thanks to Ryan Gravenberch and Ekitike's goals. Garnagay scored a really brilliant goal as well, but it wasn't enough on the day for Everton to get back into the game and get something out of it. And I think it's just familiar patterns again. Liverpool, to be honest, yeah, not the most convincing performance, but when have we really ever seen it? You know, yeah, they're very, very average. I thought, unfortunately, Everton started a bit slow, and that's where Liverpool capitalized. With the early goal of Gravenberch. But I think after that, once Everton settled in, after the first 10 minutes, it was all it was quite an even game. I thought Everton played fairly well. They were fairly comfortable. I don't think Liverpool caused a lot of issues. And yeah, I thought they're very, very strong, very comfortable, and just wasn't enough, unfortunately. You look at Ekitike goal, I think it was a little bit, again, came against your run of play, and that would have disappointed. It was a pretty poor goal, soft goal to concede. But outside that, Everton were really, really strong. But Liverpool have just managed to find a way every game this season. They had without being convincing, without looking convincing, without even a lot of these games you can make an argument, including this Merseyside derby, that they weren't the better side outright. Very even game. There's been games where they were far the inferior side, and yet they've managed to get the result. So yeah, it's funny how that works. I think that the key for Liverpool, I think the reason why is because of the game breakers they have, the world class, genuine world class ability they have at the back. Alisson, Van Dijk. When you possess two of the best players in the world in their respective positions, it makes a big difference. Gravenberch for me is playing like one of the best midfielders in the world. Not just this season, last season he was extraordinary as well. So he's just carrying on where he left off from. So yeah, they just have a few players who are playing really out of their skin and on top of their game, and that's what's carrying them through. Ekitike had a really bright start as well to his life in Merseyside, but yeah, very good win, important win. I guess in derbies, form goes out the window, performance doesn't really matter as such. So for them to get the win is all that matters. Uh, so that was the opening game. Then we move on to Amex, where we saw enthralling 2-2 draw. A really good game, honestly. Really enjoyed that one. Yeah, really, really fun game, open game, entertaining as we expect, as we have come to expect, really from Brighton and their Big Six record as well. Really strong. Always a thorn in the big side and very, very tough place to go to and play and get a result. But I actually thought Spurs were a bit hard done. They're a bit unlucky. Possibly you can make an argument to just get the point because on another day I think they could have easily won as well. I thought this was their best performance of the season so far. In totality, how good they were, how dominant they were, and they really caused Brighton a lot of issues, especially the first half. I thought they were the better team, yet Brighton went two goals to the good. Minter, by the way, I really want to talk about Brighton as well. Um, Firstly, but yeah, Spurs were really good. I thought Kudus was very strong. Odobert was looked bright. Richarlison was bright. He could have easily scored another. And they're very, very comfortable defensively. We know now with Thomas Frank, like they didn't really face a whole lot. They weren't really put to sword or really had Brighton never really had sustained attacks or levels of threat or possession as such. So yeah, the goals kind of came against the run of play, but they did really well to, of course, come back from 2-0 down via Richarlison firstly, and then a late goal by Van Hecke, unfortunately, an own goal. But on Brighton as well, I thought again, Jakob Minter is an extraordinary player. I think he's amongst the best right wingers in the league, undoubtedly. He's been so good, not just this season again, but I think last season as well. Yeah, if you look at his performance, he's going from strength to strength, and yeah, he's really terrorized every left back he's been up against. I've not really seen him have a bad game this season. He's got the better of each and every fullback he's been up against, and that's credit to him and his pace, his power, his dynamism. And yeah, just a huge miss, for Newcastle, of course, who had him on their books, had to sell for PSR reasons. But yeah, real top player. It wouldn't surprise me if he gets a big move next summer. I think he should. There should be a host of clubs interested in him, and the skill set that he possesses. It's a real nightmare to come up against. And Ayari as well. Again, I think he's amongst the most underrated players at Brighton. Of course, there's a lot of talk always on Baleba, given the summer traction he got as well. But he's actually started the season quite slowly. He's still getting into his groove, but Ayari has been a constant in that he's been very solid, very consistent. Goes under the radar, but he does his job very well, very neat and tidy, very composed, and he just takes Brighton over really, really well. So huge credit to him as well. Great game at Amex, top game, and yeah, made for some really good showing. Um, Moving on in the Premier League, the big game was on Saturday evening at Old Trafford. Where huge pressure, was on Ruben Amorim to get a result, given Manchester United's worst start in Premier League. I feel like we keep saying, you know, these records because they keep getting broken every season, at least in recent times, especially under Amorim. But they did run out 2-1 winners at Old Trafford. Bruno Fernandes and Casemiro gave them gave United, the limelight they needed, and gave them just enough, enough of lead to hold on to. But really, yeah, all action game. Started off very very quickly with Robert Sanchez being sent off in the fifth minute. It was a red card. He did get a little bit of the ball, but it was a rather foolish and petulant tackle on Sesko. And he just had to let him go there. You can't make a tackle uh, in the last line of defense of the goalkeeper, and yeah, he made the decision very easy for PGMOL for VAR to send him off, and that changed the game. But I do also think Maresca slightly got it wrong on the night. I feel like again his substitutions were a bit dodgy, For Jorgensen had to come on for Esteval, but I don't know why he brought in Tosin. Um, so Tosin, coming on in place of Neto, like changing the formation, going into back three, I don't think that was really necessary, and that kind of for me disrupted the flow, the flow state, and just the structure of Chelsea. They're very disjointed the whole first half. They didn't really know what to do, despite having three centre backs. They were United were causing them all sorts of trouble. They were really opening them up. So it was really bizarre. And then of course Palmer went off with a groin injury, and Santos had to come in. So a lot of changes, and there was no stability in that Chelsea performance. And of course Casemiro, it was first Bruno who scored the opener, and then Casemiro put them 2 goals to the good. But then he made a rather foolish foul as well on a yellow. A little bit soft, I feel like, but yeah, those ones could go either way. He got sent off at the cusp of half time. But the issue, I think, was the fact that Maresca already had made 3 changes, and they didn't really have that many options of the bench. They already committed to playing 3 centre backs. So come the time of actually 10v10, he didn't really have that much flexibility, which is where I think the first half, the first three subs were a bit bizarre, Just I don't think he had to. I think he overdid it, to be honest. I don't think he had to bring Tosin on, really, especially. And yeah, after that, really, I mean, second half was pretty open end-to-end game. Um, Chalobah scored, with 10 minutes to go, but United always, had enough in the tank to get the win. They had the legs, they had the energy, and I thought on the night they were the better team again. And Chelsea's record at OT is really really bad as well. I think they haven't won since 2013, so their torrid time in Manchester continues. Really, it's been a not a happy hunting ground for them. Yeah, and that it continues, but it's a shock result. Really, you would have expected Chelsea to back them to get over the line, but not to be this time around. Moving on to La Liga, we had Real Madrid with Espanyol Saturday afternoon, and Eder Militao and Mbappe's goals were enough to see Los Blancos secure 2-0 win at Santiago Bernabeu. Again, not the most convincing. I think with Madrid, I think they've just been very efficient to start the season. They found a way, and which is I think which is fair. There's still new manager, new system they're playing, of course, and of course this game they employed a 4-4-2. But we've seen them, play more 3-4-1-2, and yeah, I think it wasn't the most convincing. Espanyol, aren't the greatest side either, but they always were going to have more than enough firepower in the tank to get the win, and they did so rather comfortably at the end. Nothing much to really shout about. In Italy, there was lots of action as well. Saturday evening saw Hellas Verona, who was 17th in the table prior to the match, prior to kickoff, and they held Juventus to a 1-1 draw. And really, really good game, really good performance. They actually have a really strong home record against Juventus. I think they've held them to draw a fair bit of times now. Um, they have a strong record, and I think they did justice to that. It was a very, very, timid game. Juventus really weren't all that good. I thought, if you even look at statistics, if you look at the performance, I thought Verona were very good, very comfortable. Again, they didn't have much of the ball, but they definitely posed a bigger threat. Gift Orban, I thought was absolutely outstanding. He ran Juventus ragged, really. Kelly, Gatti, Kalulu, they had their work cut out, and I thought he was really at the heart of that midfield. I thought Serdar was good. Akpa Apro of Lazio as well was really nice. So very strong performance from them, much needed points. They've struggled to win games, have Hellas Verona, but yeah, to get a point against the old lady, against Juventus is always a point gained. So good result for them. Frustrating for Juventus. I don't think they ever really got into the game. They were rather timid. Not lots happening really, and fair result at the end of the day. But I thought the highlight, you know, performance of Saturday was has to go to AC Milan. Winning away at Udinese 3-0. Same Udinese side who had a strong start to the season, who beat Inter away from home 2-1 just very recently. For them to turn them over 3-0, I think speaks volumes about the work again that Allegri is doing. It's outstanding, and stylistically he is the man. I think he's the perfect fit for what Milan needed. And his 3-5-2 is really cooking on high heat. It's perfect for the also for the players, the profiles they possess. You're really seeing it coming to light. Someone like Salamakers has been outstanding so far this season, and him as a wing back is in a totally different ball game to him playing as a just as a right winger. So he has really found his footing in Milan, which is happy to see for him. He's had a fair few loans, and just in general, Modric is timeless, outstanding again, and Pulisic has been just an extraordinary signing ever since he came from Chelsea. 2 goals and an assist. He was undoubtedly the best player on the night. Um, and it was a real thrashing, and which no one really expected. No one really saw it coming. I didn't for certain. I thought it would be a really tight game, but it was anything but that. Milan were really convincing and really good sign again for them. 3-0 winners at Ude. Moving on to Bayern Munich, of course, in Germany and in under Winston Company, they've actually now had the best ever start ever, in any Bundesliga campaigns. They've won every game. They've scored over 20 goals. They've conceded, I think, 3 goals. And Harry Kane was at his very best again. Yes, he's had 5 penalties so far this season, 2 again against Hoffenheim, but you can't doubt the guy. He's just inevitable. He's undeniable, and you still got to put penalties away. And I think he's the very best in business. At putting them away. Like I really wouldn't have anyone else over my penalties. Than Harry Kane. He's that good, and he's been that good. So huge credit to him. How something Bayern were, and I think again companies it's got them seriously playing. Look at the statistics; they were really impressive. Again, Hoffenheim sure aren't in the best of places, but they were outstanding. They really ran Hoffenheim ragged and just so convincing. Great to see Carl get a start. Leonard Carl is very highly rated and he's of course got a lot of ability as well, and that's been good to see as well. Vincent Company integrating more of the very talented youth system at Bayern Munich. They have lots of youngsters coming through, so it's good to see. So Luis Diaz was good again. Jackson, I think, had his first start in the Bundesliga. So yeah, just a very convincing, very thumping, thrashing performance by the Bavarian champions. Moving on to Sunday's fixtures, um, we start let's start off in Spain. First Mallorca versus Atletico Madrid. Again, they've had a rough start. I feel for Atleti. I actually don't think they've played that badly. I feel like their performances have warranted better results, but I think for them, unfortunately, so far, they've just not been decisive enough. They've been way too wasteful, and that's hurt them. That's going to hurt you no matter what league, what level you play at. They've created more than enough on numerous occasions on multiple games, but they're just not able to get over the line, and that's always going to happen, unfortunately, if you're not going to put away your chances. So it's a familiar story for them, very frustrating. Of course, Alvarez did miss a penalty, which is unlike him, but even outside that, they played fairly well. It's just, again, just the lack of clinicality is hurting them, and that's why they've been dropping points left, right, and centre this start of the season. So, yeah, disappointing for Atletico, but I'm sure, they'll find their groove very soon. If we then look at Barcelona, 3-0 winners at home to Getafe. Yeah, outstanding performance. The Shark, Ferran Torres scored a brace, and Dani Olmo put the finishing touches to a very strong, very convincing win again. And with Barcelona, I just think, again, no matter who's playing, and no matter how rotated a side they play, I think just the options they have, the variety they have in attack, and just the sheer goals they have, I think that's the biggest strength, and I think that's the biggest differentiator. Doesn't matter who they're playing. I like I'd fancy Barca to score. They could be playing as poorly as they like. This they could still score at will. I think the only team in Europe who got that firepower, that ability, to score at will, and we saw that again. And this really again could have been 5, 6, 7. But you can say that about near enough every Barca game, especially against the mid-table, the lower table Spanish sides. They're that convincing, that smashing, really. So very strong. Pedri again, I thought ran the show in midfield. De Jong was outstanding. But Ferran Torres, of course, was put the finishing touches. Eric Garcia as well, I thought was extraordinary. He's been outstanding this season and yeah, last 12 months really. His renaissance has been one of real note and he's been outstanding, so huge credit to him as well. Moving on to Italy, we had the Rome derby in bit woke. I thought it was at 12:30, very early in the day, which I don't makes no sense to me. I don't understand how Rome derby could be that early. But anyhow, it was Lorenzo Pellegrini who scored the one and only decisive goal to beat Lazio. It was a very tightly contested game, not much in between two sides, like it always is. In a Rome derby, it's always, if you look at even recent head-to-heads, it's been very tight. Uh, you know, not a lot of goals, not a lot of action, but yeah, very interesting that Pellegrini bagged the winner. Someone who's played out of the cold. Really, he's not in Gasparini's plans exactly, and he's still expected to rather leave. Most likely in January, but he scored a huge goal, very decisive goal, and of course it means a lot being in a derby. But even yeah, for Roma's hopes in the Serie A to finish as high as possible, it's a huge 3 points. And he produced a moment of brilliance, a moment of decisiveness and real quality, to give them the winner. But outside that, I thought again Manu Kone is just such an amazing standout player, not just in Roma for me in the Serie A, in world football in general. He's that good, and he's again the linchpin of that midfield. And Sule as well, really good to see. I'm really happy for him. I'm really certain, hopeful he'll have a big season under Gasperini. He's got all the talent, all the tools, and the ability in the world to come to the fore. And he was really bright again, got an assist, and he's been amongst the goals. So yeah, huge credit to him as well. Outside that, in Italy, we saw Atalanta very convincing win away at Torino, who are in a bit of tatters, but still you have to deliver. Como got a last minute winner at Fiorentina, really good game. Actually, it was really end to end, very open. But Como came back from behind at Florence to win, and I think that's the strength and depth they have now, given the summer they had. And again, they're one to watch out for. I think they'll definitely be competing and wanting to finish, in the top six, potentially even top four. It's all up for grabs in Italy. So yeah, really strong performance again. Great strength of character and mentality, especially I thought in Como. Not an easy place to go, but yeah. Moving on to the final fixture in Italy, was Inter versus Sassuolo. Inter were 2-1 winners at San Siro, and yeah, really good performance. Sassuolo has sort of been a bogey team of Inter in recent times. They haven't had the most convincing performances or results, but I think Chivu has them playing fairly well. I think that's one thing they've been looking good in a lot of games. Even I know a few results have been up and down, but I think they've been at least formulating enough chances, in these given games to win, score goals, and then they did that again against Sassuolo. They had enough in the tank, and I thought they were worthy winners, really, despite Sassuolo's good efforts. They definitely huffed and puffed, and they gave it a fairly decent shot, but I thought Inter did well just to get over the line. And lastly, to the key fixture in the Premier League was also Manchester City at the Emirates. Yeah, what a game! I mean, really incredible game. And yeah, just I thought it was just so interesting tactically. You know what we saw. It was almost a role reversal, of what we've come to expect with these sides. But I thought it was very clever, firstly from Pep Guardiola, given the just the sheer resources Arsenal have. At present it's undeniable they have a stronger squad, they have better players, and Man City's midfield, they can't really compete with what Arsenal have going on, especially in terms of dual winning and yeah, just the power they have, the height, the presence, bar Rodri, it's not that easy. So yeah, a very interesting game, and of course Haaland yet again, six goal against Arsenal, six games. There's always this narrative of Saliba, Gabriel versus Haaland, but for me, I don't know why that is the case, because he's always got the better of the pairing. Like, he scored in every occasion, and doesn't matter, irrespective of the result, he's always scored. So tells you of his qualities. Yeah, he's just started on fire again this season, and it's been just unbelievable. Again, great goal, great finish, brilliant link up with Tijani Reinders, and they put they gave City an early lead in the opening 10. And then I thought City were very good first half, very comfortable. Really, Arsenal again. For me, I've been saying this for a while, not just this season. I think last season as well. I just think again, given all the resources now, over 1 billion spent by Arsenal, they still don't have enough attacking patterns of play. They just don't. They don't have a clear identity. It's the same stuff. Like, set pieces remain their main threat to score goals, and it can be a big threat by all accounts. You can score as many goals as you like, but it's not sustainable. You're not going to win every game by set pieces, or that being the major outlet for a side that spent 1 billion, that has spent, what we're into, what, 5 years of Arteta now. It's not good enough in my opinion on a managerial viewpoint. So, and again, it was just more of that. Really, in the second half, of course, the game dynamic changed because Man City were happy to let Arsenal have the ball. They were happy to sit back. They went really defensive, and which I thought was the right plan. Contrary to popular opinion. Arsenal, we've seen how much they've struggled in low blocks. They don't have the creativity per se. Sure, they may have the personnel here and there, but again, on a tactical viewpoint, they're not coached to have that many attacking patterns of play. All you see from them is lots of backward and sideways passes, and then they go out wide, and then they put in a cross. So it's more of the same. Or we've grown to expect that from Arsenal, but yeah, Man City were really comfortable. Despite all the possession, the lowest that Pep has had in his City career. Just a 33%. I I never really saw Arsenal playing. There was no certainty that they were going to score and they were going to get back into the game. And if not for a mistake by both Ake and Guardiola, who in the 93rd minute, I don't know why they were still looking to play a high line. Uh, they did that, and it was their undoing. And Martinelli again, for the second successive game off the bench, off the Bilbao, scored the decisive goal to save Arteta's blushes, really, because had they lost, I think the outrage would have been quite something. But it was a wonderful ball by Eze and an even better finish by Martinelli, who caught Donnarumma out a little bit as well. His positioning could have been a bit better, I think, but it was a great finish nevertheless, and a frustrating goal, I think, for City to concede, given the fact there were a couple of minutes left to go, and they've so very nearly hung on to all 3 points. But I thought still a very encouraging performance from City side of things. I think get a point away at Arsenal is not a bad result for any team, for Man City included, and I think stylistically it's the toughest game for the season for them. So to get that point, I think is still fine. It's another point gained, given the fact they lost 5-1 last season. So I think they'll take that. But a huge shout out to Josko Guardiola. The defensive, they were outstanding. O'Reilly pocketed Madueke and Saka in the second half. Kusanov was outstanding. First half, he got injured, but Nunes came on really well. And everyone was good. Rodri was outstanding again, class apart. Reinders was good. Doku, for me, was man of the match. He was extraordinary. It's been so heartening to see his season so far and how decisive he's been with his actions. His final product has been a lot better, and he's just playing to his very best, to the potential we all know that he has. So he's been really good. Arsenal, Again, I don't think they were that good. Not a lot of worthy performances. I thought Eze came on well, and Martinelli was decisive. But apart from that, I thought it was rather mediocre. Not a lot to ride home about. But that was that in terms of the roundup of uh, football friendly first week, and I hope you guys liked and enjoyed it. Do let me know in the comments below who you support and how your favorite team fared over the weekend, and which players caught your eye, which games captivated you the most. I'd love to hear, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care till then.